Hi, I'm Melissa McMahon with Care Paravel Academy. Today I'm going to share a little bit with you about how we do Shakespeare. So, Shakespeare is an important part of the Amplified Online curriculum. You can go to the website there and read all that they have listed there about Shakespeare, but I want to show you just a little bit about how we implement it practically into our home. So on Amplified, the first 3 years, years 1, 2, and 3, or if you're doing groups, group 1, you'll be reading retellings of Shakespeare stories, and those can be from Lamb's or Nesbit's. So pluses and minuses on both of these versions. We've just used Lamb's because that's the one that we had. They're kind of challenging to read, so it definitely needs to be a read aloud from mom or dad, but very good stories and very good retellings. So in the early years, those are scheduled as part of the child's yearly schedule. Year 1 has certain plays to read of the retellings, and year 2 and year 3 have their own plays. If you're combining your students, there's no reason why if you have a year 1 and a year 3, you can't just do the year 1 plays or the year 3 plays. That's not going to make any difference at all. So that's a good thing that you can combine with your children. But those are the retellings years. So you're going to read them just like any other reading, and the children are going to retell them back. Now, some ways to make that more fun is it is a play, so they can act out some of these scenes, which my kids always really enjoyed doing. And another fun thing that they always enjoyed, well, not always because I didn't discover it till they were a little bit older, so my younger ones enjoyed more, were making these peg people. Now, you can buy beautiful peg people online if you want to. I like just getting the blank ones and using Sharpie markers, and this is a really good one. This is a little bit more detailed, but it goes all skill levels, and I do not paint them for my children. I let my children do them themselves, and like I said, it's not even paint, it's Sharpie markers, and they will paint or mark whatever color, whatever characters they want to do, and however they think that they might look. And then after you've got a company of characters, they'll just go back to the basket and say, this looks like a Henry V, we'll do this for Henry V. One of my children had the idea of doing one in disguise and one for real. So they'll be creative in the way that they do their things. This is another one that's a little more simple, but really cute, and one a little more sophisticated there. I just buy the peg dolls on Amazon, or any craft store I think would have them. And again, Sharpies. So that's made narrations really fun. The other thing to do in these younger years is to try to see a production if you can. Now, caveat for all productions, make sure you call ahead and make sure that it is a family-friendly production. And I often just ask the producer or the director, if it were a movie, how would you rate it? Would it be G, PG, or R? Because there are some that can get pretty blatant and not hide at all some of the bawdiness of Shakespeare's plays. So do call ahead and make sure that it's appropriate for children. Most of them have been okay, especially if they are Shakespeare outdoors, Shakespeare in the park kind of thing, but do check on that. We haven't really watched a lot of Shakespeare movies. I really try to see them live if we can. So some resources that you might look into are your local universities, and broaden your net a little bit. Look like an hour away to see any university program might be doing Shakespeare, and usually they are if they've got a theater program at all. So get that on your calendar. Another option. For years, we had the American Shakespeare Center would have a traveling show, and so they would come to our area every January, February. And so at the beginning of the year, I would see what that they would be traveling here to show, and then I would choose those plays based on that. Now that's for the upper years, when I choose my plays based on what I want to choose. In the younger years, go ahead and stick with the schedule, mostly as written, but certainly substitute if you're able to see things live. The other really great resources that we have for the younger years are some of these picture books. This one is illustrated by Mariana Mayer, it's illustrated by Lynn Bywaters, but it's a beautiful rendition of The Tempest. We like Bruce Coville's books. And I have found these used. They are mostly library discards, so just be on the lookout for those, and they're beautiful, and they use actual quotes from the books. And this is a Bruce Coville as well. So those are great options to have, just to have around. Again, I would use Lambs or Nesbits just because there is a lot of literary value in those retellings, but I'll find even my older kids looking at these picture books now for that. So that's years 1 through 3, using the retellings, maybe some of the picture books, allowing these little peg people, super cute, and have them act out, and try to see them live if you can. A great resource that covers all ages is this book by Ken Ludwig, and I confess I have not studied it completely, but I know it has helped a lot of people, and also to choose things to memorize. It's got some great resources here. So this is another great resource for you. Now, starting in year 4, ideally, you would start reading the actual plays. And for that, I did find it useful to buy everyone their own copy of the complete works. So this edition, we found it at Barnes & Noble, and it's like $7. I'm not kidding about that. Now, it's not great quality. There are no notes whatsoever, and it's like newspaper kind of pages. But it's good for us, and it allowed everybody to have her own copy. It is in the public domain, so it's easy to find as ebooks, or used bookstores, thrift stores will often have copies of Shakespeare. So it's fairly inexpensive for everyone to have her own copy, so that you can read it aloud with each other, and that makes it so much more fun. Shakespeare can be done one-on-one, just the teacher and the student, but it is a lot more fun if you have friends. So, everything's more fun if you have friends. If you have friends doing Shakespeare together, it is more fun. So there was a year that we were able to gather some local families, and we had our Shakespeare days, and that was a lot of fun, and I'd like to resurrect that if I could, so they could come over. We would just read until we stopped. We had 45 minutes or so, and we would take parts and read it, and those were some very memorable years doing Shakespeare. So if you're able to do it as a group, that's ideal, really. And it's fun for the older kids too. They can be a little bit silly at an age where they're trying not to be silly, and they can enjoy that. I will warn you about the No Fear Shakespeare editions. Those are often used, especially in high school, it's the real text on one side, and then on the other side it has it kind of spelled out, annotated for you, but it spells out too much. So a lot of the passages that are a little bit bawdy and not for sensitive ears, they just go right over our heads, even adults' heads, because it's in Shakespearean English. But once it's spelled out in modern day English, it's a lot. So just beware of that. I don't like them. I don't have them here. It does explain things, but a little too much. Another resource that I really like is this book by Peter Leithart. It is Brightest of Invention. So it's a Christian guide to 6 Shakespeare plays, and it's a great resource. It has discussion questions that can lead into essays for the upper years. So if you have older students, I like that a lot. Now, as far as choosing plays in the upper years, I really do like to choose plays that we can see, hopefully live. If not, then trying to get some movie versions, which he also has in here. One of the good things about the COVID pandemic was that a lot of companies were putting their Shakespeare productions online. So there are more possibilities through YouTube and other places where you can find good quality stage set Shakespeare that you can watch from your home. So I would prefer that over a movie, because just the nature of a movie will take different liberties that you can't do when it's set on stage. And then the next level is if you can be involved in a Shakespeare production. That's where your kids can really take on the language and take on the characters and be able to enjoy it thoroughly and be then a producer of art for their community. So especially for your older students, look if there's an opportunity for them to audition for some Shakespeare shows. And I think a lot of kids really enjoy that, and that's where they really can understand the language and the characterization And that's the magic of Shakespeare, is when you're able to start seeing how brilliantly it's written and how it's interwoven, and just gives the magic there that you might not see if you're just doing a cursory look. Now, as far as a reading schedule, for us, ideally, sometimes it happened this way, most often it didn't, but as in all ideal things, it's good to start off with a plan. For the 12-week term, the first week we would do a retelling. So even in the upper years, when they're reading the real plays, do a retelling that first year. If it's not in Lamb's or Nesbit, sometimes I would just read the plot from Wikipedia or some other plot synopsis online, just read it out so they have an overview of the story. Then we would take 2 weeks to do Act 1, 2 weeks to do Act 2, and so forth. So that's 10 weeks worth. And then the last week would be for watching it, ideally. Of course, if it's a traveling production and you don't have a choice of when it's showing, then you just go whenever you can. But if you're watching a movie or something, you can do that on the last week. And then for older students, Shakespeare is great for essays. And again, this book by Leithart gives lots of different essay ideas, or at least to have some discussions, even if it's not written down. But I love Shakespeare myself. I've been involved in some Shakespeare plays. I've loved being in them, and my kids have enjoyed that too. So I hope that you can love it. Again, the value is in the rich language and in the storytelling and the true characters in it. So don't gloss over it, even if it's something that you're not used to doing or might feel hoity-toity to you or something. It's Shakespeare is for everyone, because the characters are people we know and we can see in ourselves and in others, and help us to see the world in a different way. So I hope that's helpful to you and helps you to see why we do Shakespeare and how we can do it. And as always, do what works for your family, but this is what has worked for ours. Thanks.